this marks the end of the hickory and walnut bench. So it's been a long time coming. I've been working on this project for almost 2 months now, and I am just so happy that it's finished. I'm also kind of disappointed because it's been a ton of fun to work on this project all the way along. Everything from milling the lumber to getting it to this final finishing stage has just been so very awesome. So I decided to save at the beginning of the video all those clips that we went through of the finishing process of this bench. I decided not to do voiceover on those because I wanted to save that for this point when I can kind of sit here, talk to you guys about the end of the project and everything and stuff like that. So before we get into this video, I will let you know that there will be another video coming out about this project sometime soon here, talking about some of the major hiccups and issues I had along the way while working on this project. There was definitely a few things that went wrong, especially at the very beginning. And so rather than trying to cram them all into all those little things into the videos, I just wanted to make one final video, kind of a after look at the project, to kind of give you guys a good idea of the things that do go wrong in these woodworking projects. So going back to the beginning part of this video, the finishing process on this bench was just so much fun. I started by sanding everything up to 220 grit, and so started with the random orbit sander, worked my way through the grits, both on the base and the bench top, and yeah, it was a long, slow process, especially the bench top, which is made of solid hickory. That is the hardest domestic hardwood here in North America, and it took a while to sand. It took a very long time to sand. I can't lie about that. And so then once I got everything sanded with using the random orbit sander, I went over to a 220 grit sanding block. I like using these cheap sanding blocks because they soften all your edges and your corners and all that so very well. If you try to use like a random orbit sander to go over your corners and do that, I don't know, it's too uneven. It just breaks everything in these really uncomfortable weird ways. So using these like super high grit sanding blocks just over all your edges just makes them so like baby smooth. It's just beautiful. Another thing I'll mention about sanding, on the bottom bevel that you guys have seen, that 30-degree bevel that we put on the bottom, you'll notice that there are still saw marks going all the way, those little curly marks all the way through. So one of the things I really like, and I did this on the ash side table that I built a few months ago, is I like to leave those saw marks because they don't show up that much in the final project, but when you're kind of sitting on the bench and you kind of wrap your hands around the bottom and you get to feel those ever so slight marks, it just makes you feel like, yeah, this thing was handmade. It was sort of I had to run a saw across it. It just makes it feel more real. Because if everything on the project is just perfectly sanded up to 220 grit and everything just feels glass smooth, it's cool, but it doesn't feel as real. So once I finished all the sanding, I was able to get on to the finishing. And I absolutely love the finish that I chose to use on this project. I went over a ton of different finishes. I tried using that Varathane oil that we used on the ash side table and that maple table. I didn't like it. I tried lacquer. I did that on a few test pieces, thinking that it'd be pretty tough. I could just spray it on. But the problem with doing that is that you have to have a full respirator. You gotta be wearing eye protection. You gotta fully dust-proof my shop, which is just something I can't do. So I decided against that. And then the final one I finished on was tried and true varnish oil. Now this stuff was just so awesome to work with. And I went with the varnish oil because I wanted something, I don't really know what the difference is between, well, I know what the actual difference is between them, but I don't know what the long-term differences between them will be. But I went with the varnish oil because it's a mix of polymerized linseed oil and pine resin. So the pine resin is supposed to be what makes it actually have a fairly hard, durable finish. So that's why I decided to go with this over the tried and true original, which is just linseed oil and beeswax. Now, the reason I went with this finish is because it's winter here in Canada, and the fact that I can't dust-proof my garage, where my shop is all those factors kind of together, I really wanted to be able to just do the finish in a nice, comfortable location. So, by using this tried and true varnish oil, I was able to bring the entire project inside into my office here and finish it inside. Now, I quite like the smell of linseed oil, but some people may not, so you may or may not be able to get away with doing it in your house. Being able to finish it in my office, all I really had to do was put a coat on every 24 hours, burnishing it with steel wool between coats, and it just made this beautiful finish. So on the base of the bench, I did 2 coats of the varnish oil. And really that was the only reason I needed to do I did 2 instead of just 1, is because I wanted to have a good amount of protection. Whether it's from just brushing it with my feet, or I actually have another project that's going to be going on the bottom of this bench that's also coming soon. So on the base of the bench, I'm going to be having some stuff that when I'm sliding it in and out or just putting stuff on the bottom of the bench, I don't want it to get scratched. I wanted to have a good, safe amount of protection, but I also didn't really want to waste coats, so 2 coats seemed like a good amount. And then on the top, I went for 3 coats on the top where you sit and on the edges. And then on the underside, I only went with 2 coats again, just so you have that nice, even amount of protection. So once the top of the bench and the sides were completely dry, I went over it again with some hard wax finish. Now this, I just used normal boiled linseed oil and beeswax, melted them together to make this kind of paste wax finish, and put that on the top. So the reason I did that was because it'll add a little bit more of a sacrificial layer on top. Plus, having that little bit of a thicker wax coating just kind of feels a little bit cooler, and it's just a feeling I like, so I decided to go for it. And so the idea here is that that sacrificial layer of wax will kind of rub off and wear off faster than the oil that's on the top layer of the wood. So there is some reason, there's some logic and some reason to it, but in reality the only reason I really did it was because I just love the finish, or I love the feeling of that paste wax finish on any project, and so that's the top of this bench is no different than that. This project went by pretty well. I'm honestly, I am very, I don't know, I have very mixed feelings about the fact that I'm finished with it. It was quite an expensive project to do, but I feel like it was well worth it. Actually, on the topic of the price, let's talk about that, because I feel like that's one thing that a lot of woodworkers don't talk about in their videos. And I know on one hand, it's kind of hard to talk about that, because then a future client might see that and be like, why are you overcharging me for this? So we're not going to be talking about what I would sell this for, because I don't know if I'm going to be willing to sell this bench. I really like it, so I don't know if I'm going to put it up on my website. But let's just talk about the price. So the bench top itself is made out of 8-quarter hickory. Now, hickory is not a very expensive wood, especially compared to what the base is made of, but I'm trying to remember, I think it was about $10 a board foot that I paid for it. So I think the total cost was about $150 Canadian for the bench top. Now, that's expensive, but the benefit of working with hickory is that this bench top is literally bulletproof. I mean, it's heavy to move around, it's very cumbersome. I hope when I put it in place, I don't ever have to really move it again. I mean, as you saw when I was putting the top on, it is a very heavy-duty top, and I absolutely love that. So many good things to say about working with hickory, at least on the top here, that I'm honestly thinking about doing like a whole bedroom set and redoing my desk and all that, and making them out of hickory. Because, I mean, that's where the price really came in for me. There are definitely cheaper woods, like I could have gone with cherry, or well, I could have done maple, I'm trying to think, ash, like we did on that side table. All those woods look pretty good, but what I really love about hickory to me is the best looking wood. It's got this just beautiful golden brown heartwood with a little bit of lighter tan sapwood. Once you get the finish on there, it's just the best looking light colored wood there is. So moving on to the base now. The base surprisingly wasn't all that expensive. And the reason for this is because I found a guy here in Calgary that had a bunch of number 3 common walnut. Now this is bottom of the pile, stuff that is almost firewood quality walnut. And he was selling it for about $6 a board foot, which is, when you're talking like crab quality wood, that is very expensive. But I was able to get a decent amount of long chunks of walnut at that reasonable price, which was where I decided that, hey, why not just make the base out of this cheaper walnut? I wanted to build a piece of furniture using walnut for years and years and years, so this seemed just like a good opportunity where I could use some of this cheap walnut in just easy ways. So I will break that cheap part by saying that the stretchers, so the 4 long stretchers all came from that one piece of wood, and that one piece I bought at Windsor Plywood, so I think I paid about $10 a board foot for that, so same as the 8-quarter hickory, which is, again, not cheap, but it was the only way to get those solid, high-quality, good-looking pieces of long walnut. So in total, I think the base cost about, I want to say around 80 to 100 bucks. That's including that hickory shelf on the bottom. Hickory, 4-quarter hickory is about the cheapest wood you can buy. For me anyway, I think it's about $5 a board foot, so it was super cheap, and that's kind of what sparked this whole project, is I thought I could get away with using that nice cheap wood. But again, you're gonna have to check out that the hiccups video that is coming out, for why I didn't make it out of hickory. In total, I believe this bench, I want to say it would cost about I'm gonna say $200 to $250 in materials for this bench. That's including finishing, glue, all the sandpaper that I had to go through, all that kind of stuff. So it definitely is not a cheap project. I don't make a lot of money. I work part-time. I don't have a whole ton of savings. I am kind of in the search for a full-time job and all that, so I can actually start making a decent living. So spending that much money on a bench seems kind of ridiculous. But in the long run, it's not really about the bench. I mean, I absolutely love this piece. I'm probably gonna own this piece for the rest of my life. If I decide to sell it someday, then I can, but I love it so very much. So it's really not about the price of the bench, or the wood that went into it, or the amount of days I spent sanding and trying to finish this bench. It was really just an awesome project to work along the whole way along. I'm gonna end this video here. I know it's been a long one, but I like the idea of sitting down at the end of a project and just talking about it. Because it's something that a lot of the woodworkers that I follow on YouTube, I don't feel like they do it enough. You know, they pump out these beautiful projects, but they never seem like they take the time to kind of sit down and appreciate it and talk about it. So this is something on my big projects like this, where I'm gonna try and do this on every single one. So I do hope you guys have enjoyed this project. It's been a long one, but it's been an awesome one. So we're gonna call it here. I'm gonna set up and shoot some B-roll of this thing, and I hope you guys enjoy that, and I will see you in the next project.